What's up, everybody? It's Jordan, and welcome to the Sports Behind Show. Today is May 26, 2021. In this video, I want to be doing some AFC South draft grades. And to start off, we will go ahead and get started here with the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans did not have a first-round pick or a second-round pick due to the Laramie Tunsil trade a few years ago. But with their first third-round pick, they actually had two third-round picks. They took Stanford quarterback Davis Mills. This was a interesting pickup. They signed some quarterbacks in free agency. They traded to get some as well. They have Davis Mills now. Deshaun Watson is technically still on the Texans roster. They have Tyrod Taylor. They have Jeff Driscoll. They recently released Ryan Finley. But, who knows? Davis Mills could be the future starting quarterback of the Texans. It's a very interesting move. I think there's bigger needs in quarterback here for the Texans, but they tried to go best player available here, and you can make a case that Davis Mills was one of the best player available here in the third round. Pretty decent pickup here by the Houston Texans, getting Mills with their first pick in the draft. They had two third-round picks, and with their second third-round pick, they actually take a wide receiver, and Michigan wide receiver Nico Collins gets some more wide receiver help because you look at their offensive talents. They definitely have one of the worst offenses heading into the NFL season. They signed some running backs in free agency like Philip Lindsay and Mark Ingram, but, they could really use some help at receiver. They have one of the worst receiving corps in the entire NFL. I think getting Nico Collins, regardless who your quarterback is, it's really nice to get some weapons. I think Nico Collins was a pretty nice selection here for the Texans in the third round. Two very nice selections for the Texans in the third round. With their fifth-round pick, they actually had two fifth-round picks. With their first one, they took Miami, Florida tight end Brevin Jordan. I really like this pick here. If it wasn't for Brevin Jordan's horrific pro day, he probably would have ended up being a mid-third, maybe early fourth-round pick. They get him in the fifth. He was one of my favorite tight end prospects in the entire draft. This one, honestly, one of the bigger steals in the entire draft as well, in my opinion. I think the Texans got a steal on Brevin Jordan, and I think he's going to be a big piece in their offense in years to come. With the Texans' second fifth-round pick, they took TCU linebacker Garrett Wallow. Wallow was arguably one of the best linebackers available. You can make a case that Dylan Moses, the linebacker from Alabama, was one of the best ones here, but Wallow was a really nice pickup. The Texans really need some help at literally every single position. Wallow here gives them some more depth at linebacker, and I think he has a chance to be a pretty nice player in the Texans defense. And it closes out here the Texans. Their final pick is in the sixth round, and it took Roy Lopez, defense tackle from Arizona. I don't really like this pick here. I think there was much better players available, like a wide receiver and running back and, edge rushers, because you really need to get a replacement for J.J. Watt. He's now with the Arizona Cardinals. I think there was just so many better players available here than getting arguably not even the top three defensive tackle here in the sixth. I was not really a fan of this pick at all by the Houston Texans. The Texans overall, they had an okay draft. Nothing great, nothing horrible. So I gave them the average grade of a C. Expect the Houston Texans definitely to be one of the worst teams in the 2021 season. Next up on the AFC South draft grades is the Indianapolis Colts. In the offseason, the Colts traded for starting quarterback Carson Wentz from the Philadelphia Eagles. With Rivers retiring, they really needed a quarterback replacement, and they got one in Carson Wentz. And with their first-round pick, some people were expecting the Colts to take a wide receiver, but instead they got best player available, taking Michigan edge rusher Kwity Paye. Justin Houston retired in the offseason. This was a fantastic selection here by the Colts. I really do not think you could have got a better player here with a 21st pick overall in the draft getting Kwity Paye. It was a team need. He was best player available. This is arguably the best case scenario here for the Colts getting Kwity Paye in the first round. In the second round, they took Vanderbilt defensive end Dayo Odobingo. This was a massive reach here, in my opinion. He was not even a top 6 or 7 edge rusher here, in my opinion. This really makes no sense. I thought this was one of the bigger reaches here on day 2. The Colts did not have a third-round pick, but I honestly believe there was a chance that Dayo Odobingo could have lasted to the Colts in the 4th round because of the massive reach. There is many better edge rushers here available. There's lots of wide receivers here in the 2nd to maybe give Carson Wentz some more weapons because T.Y. Hilton's getting up there in age. But, instead they take a massive reach, taking Odabingo, the edge rusher from Vanderbilt. They did not have a 3rd-round pick selection, but with their 4th-round pick, they took SMU tight end Kylan Granson. This, to me, was kind of another reach here. I thought there was many tight ends better available here than Granson. One stands out is Brevin Jordan, who was drafted by, division rival, the Houston Texans. I really think Granson here was a bit of a reach. There was many wide receivers here available. There was some fantastic edge rushers here in the 4th. I really think they could have possibly got Granson with their next pick. But with their next pick that happens to be in the 5th round, the Indianapolis Colts took Sean Davis, the safety from Florida. This wasn't a horrible pick, but honestly, I still think there were some better players here available. It was a team need. I'm not totally for it. I'm not totally against it. It was a solid pick, nothing great by any means, but an okay pick there in the 5th by the Colts. In the 6th, they kind of surprised some people actually taking a quarterback. They took Texas quarterback Sam Ehlinger. I do not hate this idea getting Ehlinger in the 6th. He was a very, very successful college quarterback. Maybe a project guy. I think could be a decent backup in the NFL. Learn a lot from Carson Wentz, who has been in the league for quite some time. I think this was a solid pickup here by the Colts. They actually had 2 7th-round picks, and with their first 7th-round pick, they took Mike Strachan, the wide receiver from Charleston University. I would really, really like this pick here. I think Strachan was one of the more underrated wide receivers in the draft class. Playing at Charleston University in West Virginia, you do not play, top-level competition. The fact you were drafted and many teams were interested in you really proves how good you are and how valuable you can be on a team. I thought this was a fantastic pick here for the Colts. And to close it out, they took Will Fries, the offensive tackle from Penn State. I really think there were some much better players here available. And I know in the 7th round, you're not going to get many, big hits on players. But in my philosophy is in the 5th, 6th, and 7th rounds, you always take best player available instead of a team need. That's not really what the Colts did here with Will Fries, but that's exactly what they did with Mike Strachan. Big fan of the Mike Strachan pick, but not really a fan of the Will Fries pick. Overall, I thought the Colts had an okay draft, but I ended up giving the Colts a draft grade of a B-. Next up on the AFC South draft grades is the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans had the 22nd pick overall in the 2021 draft. And with that selection, they took Virginia Tech cornerback Caleb Farley. I really, really like this pick here. Caleb Farley slid in the draft a little bit due to some injury issues. But I thought this was an amazing pick here by the Titans. It was best player available. It was a team need. Anytime, you have the chance of doing that, you always do it. Losing Adoree Jackson in the offseason to the New York Giants, you really need to find a cornerback replacement, and that's exactly what they did there, taking Caleb Farley. I really, really like that pick. I honestly think that's one of the more underrated picks in the 1st round. And with their 2nd-round pick, they took North Dakota State offensive tackle Dylan Redence. Dylan Redence really impressed people with the interview process and his play during the Senior Bowl. They got him in the 2nd. I thought that was a tremendous value pick there. One of the more underrated offense tackles in the draft. There was a great selection by Tennessee. I really think the Tennessee Titans had one of the more underrated round 1 and round 2 pickups in the entire draft. I thought they had a great first 2 rounds. They actually had 2 3rd-round picks, and with their first 3rd-round pick, they took Georgia linebacker Monty Rice. I thought this was an okay pickup. I thought it maybe could have been a little bit of a reach here, but Monty Rice was one of the better linebackers in the draft. They really needed some linebacker depth and help. So it was a solid pickup there for the Titans, specifically because they really need some help at linebacker. And like I mentioned, they had 2 3rd-round picks, and with their 2nd 3rd-round pick, they took Elijah Molden, corner/safety from Washington, giving some more secondary help, along with getting Caleb Farley in the 1st. I thought that was a tremendous move by the Tennessee Titans. Getting Elijah Molden in the 3rd, he can play safety and corner. Fantastic pickup there by the Titans. The Tennessee Titans' fourth-round pick, they took Louisville wide receiver Dez Fitzpatrick. Dez Fitzpatrick had a nice showing at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, but I definitely do not think it was worthy of him being drafted in the fourth round. I was thinking maybe in the sixth or even seventh. He was not a top 10 wide receiver available. This was a major reach here, in my opinion. For the Titans, you can make a case that this was arguably their worst pick of their draft. And they actually had two fourth-round picks. And with their second fourth-round pick, they took a fantastic player here in Rashad Weaver, the edge rusher from Pittsburgh. I thought this was one of the more underrated picks in the entire NFL draft. Getting some more help at edge is a great idea, considering you lost Jadeveon Clowney in the offseason to the Cleveland Browns, filling some holes in the defensive end. Best player available, team need. That's a fantastic idea, getting Rashad Weaver there in the fourth by the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans actually did not have a fifth-round pick, but they had two sixth-round picks. And with their first sixth-round pick, they took Racey McMath, wide receiver from LSU. I don't really like this pick much here. I thought there was much better players available, and there was much better wide receivers here available, in my opinion. I don't think McMath was even a top 10 wide receiver here. This was a little bit of a reach. I definitely thought they could have done much better here in the sixth round. And with their second sixth-round pick, they took a Brady Breeze, safety from Oregon. Here as well, I also thought they could have done much better here. There's many better players available here than Brady Breeze and Racey McMath. But, you're not going to have a great pick every single time you have a pick in the draft. But I thought the Tennessee Titans had a solid draft. I ended up giving the Tennessee Titans an overall draft grade of a B+. And the Titans were in the playoffs a year ago. And with the draft this past season, I would not be shocked one bit if they were in playoff contention this upcoming season. The final team of the AFC South draft grades is the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars had the first overall pick of the 2021 NFL Draft. And it surprised absolutely nobody that took Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback from Clemson. This was a great pick here by the Jaguars. I really could not have got it wrong here taking Lawrence. I thought it was a great selection. He's going to be the franchise quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars for the next 10 to 15 years. The face of the franchise. This is a great way to start off the Urban Meyer tenure in Jacksonville. The Jacksonville Jaguars actually had two first-round picks, and with their second first-round pick, they took Clemson running back Travis Etienne. I absolutely hate this pick so much. James Robinson was a rookie last season. He had over 1,400 total yards. He was one of the best running backs in the NFL last season for the worst team in the NFL. Over 1,000 rushing yards for a team who lost 15 straight games. It's very impressive that somebody has over 1,000 rushing yards in the season, considering their passing come back every single game. And not to mention, James Robinson was an undrafted free agent last season, made the team, worked his butt off. In a year, we had no preseason, and he gets disrespected like this when it's at ETN in the first. And the Jaguars also signed Carlos Hyde to a 2-year contract in free agency. I hate this move here by the Jaguars. I definitely think it was one of the worst selections in the first round of the draft. They actually had two second-round picks here. With their first second-round pick, they took Georgia cornerback Tyson Campbell. I don't think this was a horrible pick, but I definitely do not think it was a great pick. I think there were some better players available here at the start of the second. There was many players who should not have been here at the beginning of the second round, like Terrace Marshall Jr., Asante Samuel Jr. I definitely thought, if they were going to go corner here in the second, Asante Samuel Jr. was the corner to go to here. Instead, they take Tyson Campbell, which isn't a bad pick, but I honestly believe they could have took some better players available here rather than taking Tyson Campbell. Like I mentioned, they had two second-round picks, and with their second-round pick, they took Stanford offense tackle Walker Little. Walker Little has had some injury issues, and he's not played in many games throughout his collegiate career. He showed some promise, but he's just been unable to play many games during his time in college. I do not like this pick here at all for the Jacksonville Jaguars. There was much better offense tackles here available rather than taking Walker Little. I thought he was not even the top 3 offense tackle here, in my opinion, in the second round. Looking at the Jaguars draft, they had a nice draft, but in my opinion, they definitely have one of the more overrated drafts in the entire NFL. As we continue here in the third round, that took one of my favorite safeties in the draft, taking Andre Cisco, I thought this was a great selection here, taking him in the third. They needed safety. He was one of the better players available here at the start of the third round. It was a great selection by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Speaking of great selections, they actually had 2 fourth-round picks, and these were both really nice picks here. With the first pick in the 4th round, they took USC defense tackle Jay Tufele. Heading into the 2021 offseason, defense tackle and quarterback were the 2 biggest needs for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jay Tufele's son was arguably a first-round pick. They got a first-round pick talent in the 4th round. Anytime that happens, that is absolutely phenomenal. That was a great pick there by the Jacksonville Jaguars. And with their second 4th-round pick, they took a really nice, underrated edge rusher, picking UAB edge rusher Jordan Smith. Jordan Smith was a phenomenal edge rusher during his time with UAB. They could really use some more help on the defensive line, getting Jordan Smith and Jay Tufele. All of a sudden you have a young, much improved defensive line that's really going to be a big part of the Jacksonville Jaguars defense in years to come. As we continue here with the Jacksonville Jaguars draft grades, in the 5th round, they took Ohio State tight end Luke Farrell. I absolutely hate this pick, but it's not surprising that Urban Meyer took an Ohio State player at some point. You knew it was bound to happen. You just did not know when. Luke Farrell was not even a top 5 tight end prospect here available, arguably not even top 10. He was not even in the top 300 draft prospects on some people's, big boards and everything. Do not like that pick at all there by the Jacksonville Jaguars. And with their final pick of the draft in the 6th round, they took Georgia Tech wide receiver Jalen Camp. This wasn't a horrible pick, but I do think they could have done better. There was, in my opinion, about 3 to 5 better receivers here in the 6th round, rather than them taking Jalen Camp, the wide receiver from Georgia Tech. Overall, I thought the Jacksonville Jaguars had a nice draft, but I honestly believe the Jacksonville Jaguars, though, have one of the most overrated drafts in the entire NFL. But I did give them an overall draft grade of a B+. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate it, and I will see you all next time on the Sports Dude Hines Show.